What sensitivity is best, low or high, and what are their benefits? I'll answer this now. This exact question is what user Delenciaga asked on Reddit. Him and a lot of other players, rightfully so, are having a lot of questions about sensitivities. We'll start it off simple. What is the most optimal sense? Now, I could clickbait you here and do what a lot of YouTubers do, which is just lie and tell you that there's some secret sensitivity that will make you magically improve or some technique you can use to find it. While some of these techniques are decent, I think the importance behind sense is one thing: comfortability. See, no sense is actually better or worse, it's just adapted to you. So should you spend your time switching between different sensitivities until you find the right one? No. And I'll explain to you why. As long as you have sensitivity that's reasonable, being between 25 to 40 centimeters, obviously not the exact numbers, but 90% of people will be good. I want you to imagine this. You have 3 different mice, and every hour you're forced to switch between these mice. Now for me, switching things up always feels better at first, until that honeymoon phase is over and my aim becomes bad again. You might recognize yourself because this is actually really normal. So ask yourself, would you switch your mouse every hour, or would you learn a specific one? We find out which one is the best for you by playing it for a while. If our natural aim feels good with the specific sense, we'll stick to that one after our honeymoon phase has ended. See, personally, I've always just kept one since I started my FPS journey, and honestly, I felt like it helped me a ton. A lot of people claim muscle memory is a meme, and I'm not so sure about this. Ask yourself this: all this supposed science behind aim training, is it worth it? Is it correct? I mean, aim training is such a new field that a lot of things are just bound to be wrong. Just imagine how much wrong science got at the beginning of astronomy, for example. And even though something like working out is really widely studied, most people go by word of mouth or what's worked for others. And actually, this tip, just to be consistent to one sensitivity, has helped me a lot when transitioning my aim across different games. I don't think sense is about a specific value or number, rather a specific feeling. And by choosing your feeling rather than exact value and sticking to it, you're basically over the years building up solid muscle memory. I think of it like an investment. While you might get a more short-handed reward by switching things up now, investing in your sensitivity for the long haul is more important to me. Lastly, and I will touch on this briefly, but don't believe YouTubers who say that this is the best or my way is the best. Even if my tips might be wrong, I'm not here to prove something is right or not, rather to explore our options together. So tell me what you think of these in the comments below, as I'm genuinely curious if you share a different viewpoint. Keep in mind, when watching videos of aim training, a lot of these questions aren't fully known. A lot of YouTubers exploit you simply by answering questions that haven't been answered, regardless if they're true or not. So take everything what people say with a grain of salt. Lastly, I'll say this: if you tend to play a lot, something you will consider with the lower sense is that you're more likely to actually develop wrist or hand issues. That is, if you play around 8 hours a day or just sit on your PC a lot. Just something to consider in the long run, but this can also be mitigated through finger exercises and using a gadget like this one. Sensitivity randomizer. The way I use sensitivity randomizer is by using it every once in a while, maybe 1 or 2 times a month when my aim might be feeling off. I think a lot of people can actually hurt themselves if they train at a different sense on specifically clicking scenarios. I think it hurts your flicks and specifically your speed, which will in turn mess up your reaction time. Tracking, however, is a different story, and that's the way I use it. I think stuff like sense randomizer can actually greatly help. In tracking, we're practicing keeping the crosshair on the target and following. It's almost like you're learning to follow in different ways. I theorized one of these reasons might be because of ADS, different zoom variables, different games having different mouse feel despite this being the same sensitivity. It's also possible that tracking the target might work the hand part of your hand-eye coordination more, since you're focused on learning different patterns by the second. Your eyes can follow the target at all times, but your hands are forced to adapt. This might strengthen the link between them and actually be a crucial part in why it's so successful. While in flicking scenarios, it's just one swoop motion. Raw Accel. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You don't know until you try. With everything in life or in aim training, I could give you the best argument here and show you the ultimate setup like a lot of people do. But the truth is simple. You might not like it or you might like it. Supposedly, the benefit of this is having faster flicks, yet having more stable tracking. I personally think it's viable, but this will actually take longer for your brain to learn these movements. You have to approach it for what it is. Imagine every time you went into a flicking scenario, you'd switch up to a higher sense. You'd switch sense, and every time you went to a tracking one, you'd switch again. Could it benefit you? Yes. But from speaking to people who have used it, I found out that almost everyone got off random Accel after a couple of months of using it. Because like switching sensitivities, it feels good, but might not necessarily be good for you. I didn't really answer your question, but hopefully you can understand my viewpoint with all of this. Should I practice with the same sensitivity or have the same sensitivity across games? Simple answer here, because I don't want to take more of your time, is to just keep the same sense across all games and all scenarios. That's what I do. It's enough with field of view transitions, ADS transitions, and so on. Ultimately, higher sense might actually highlight the flaws you currently have. If you basically overflick, it might be more obvious if you use a higher sense. People say higher sensitivities give you less stability while lower ones are easier. But that's it. Why would you accept taking the easier route to learning? Since then, your brain isn't adapting and you aren't forcing it to actually learn more. You're just making it easier. Meaning, all in all, it's actually less skill. Higher sensitivities are basically highlighting our flaws like shaky aim. And so we're forced to work on it instead of hiding them and not needing to learn that skill. But as with all things, don't take anyone's word for it. Try it out for yourself and find out.